We hosted a party. Nobody drank hot chocolate. Or eggnog. I have a whole thing of eggnog. I'll bring that to you because it'll go better than We'll get started in just a few minutes. I'm just going to give people a few extra minutes this morning to come in because I'm explaining how this all works right at the beginning, and then it will be very confusing. That was a terrible explanation. We'll get there. We'll get there. You just squeeze this and unsqueeze it. And it also just can come off of the stand. I will fully admit that I was waiting for my child to come in order to give these directions, but it appears that she has gotten distracted somewhere. So we'll just go ahead and start. Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Lincoln on this Sunday morning, December 24th of 2023. Christmas Eve morning, which I have been saying for the last month and getting more confused every time I say it. We will also have a Christmas Eve evening tonight. Aha, and there is my tiny child. Hey, kiddo. Hi. Not so tiny. But this is the Christmas Eve morning, which presented a problem as we were planning this month of services, which is how do you do two services on Christmas Eve that feel distinct from each other but also relate to each other? So here's what we're going to do. I am going to say welcome. Welcome. It is good to be together. We are a loving community uniting reason with spiritual exploration to transform ourselves and each other. There, we have done the welcome. For the rest of the service, for the rest of this morning, you will see that there are a dozen boxes under the Christmas tree. They have been there for about a week. What we're going to do is, over the course of the next hour or so, invite you to come forward and open a box. And as you open the box, you will hold up a sign that says, chalice lighting, or joy to the world, or joys and sorrows. And we will do the service in whatever order the boxes are opened. That's the plan. If you want to open a box, but don't want to come up here, make yourself known and I will bring a box to you.
And we don't know what's in the boxes, so.
We know what's in the boxes collectively,
But not individually.
but not individually.
So if it's the closing, do we just end it right there?
The closing does not have a box. It will end once all of the boxes have been opened, and then we'll go get lunch, and then everybody, because they have nothing better to do today, will come back for the evening service tonight. All right. The other thing to say is that the red boxes are spoken word, and the gold boxes are carols. So we're going to try and spread the carols out a little bit so we don't just sing 4 times. The other thing to say is that we went through 3 strings of pianists this week, and we do not have a pianist today. So luckily, the congregation recorded a whole lot of Christmas music in 2020 for reasons, and we will be using that music over the course of this morning's service and then again tonight. All right, that is the welcome. That is the introduction. Would anyone young or young at heart like to come up and open a box to start us?
Let's see, what's the mojo? Yep. We know where we're starting.
Good old Amazon. Oh, this is too well paid.
Just pull it.
There we go. Reading The Camels Speak by Lynn Unger.
Okay. Get this on shorter person mode. Can you hear me? Awesome, awesome. Okay. I am reading The Camels Speak by Lynn Unger. Of course, they never consulted us. They were wise men, kings, star readers, and we merely transportation. They simply loaded us with gifts and turned us toward the star. I ask you, what would a king know of choosing presents for a child? Had they ever seen a baby born to such simple folks, so naked of pretension, so open to the wind? What would such a child care for perfumes and gold? Far better to have asked one born in the desert, tested by wind and sand. We saw what he would need, the gift of perseverance, of continuing on the hard way, making do with what is there, living on what you have inside. The gift of holding up under a burden, of lifting another with grace, of kneeling to accept the weight of what you must bear. Our footsteps could have rocked him with the rhythm of the road, shown him comfort in a harsh land, the dignity of continually moving forward. But the wise men were not wise enough to ask. They simply left their trinkets and admired the rustic view. Before you knew it, we were turned again toward home, carrying men only half willing to be amazed. But never mind. We saw the baby, felt him reach for the bright tassels of our gear. We desert amblers have our ways of seeing what you chatterers must miss. That child at heart knows something about following a star. Our gifts are given, have no doubt. His life will bear the print of who we are.
Who would like to open the next one? We have a volunteer.
Ailish will do the next one, okay? There's lots of them. Yeah. Do you want to open one of the gold ones so we can sing together? Ailish, wait your turn, okay? Why don't you wait and we'll do it? All right. When it's your turn, you can open that one. That sounds like a good plan.
Trying my best not to rip.
You can rip it on.
This can be ripped, thrown.
This is how you what's this? That's supposed to be on paper. Carol. It's called Deck the Halls.
Deck the halls.
So if you would, rise in body or in spirit and join in singing number 235 in the great hymnal, Deck the Halls. And can we pause it for just a second? Sorry. So, obligatory Unitarian thing at Christmas. If you have a hymnal, those are going to have some words in it. If you're looking up there, those will probably have different words in it. Whatever words you sing, whatever words you remember from childhood, it is all good. Okay. Any kids want to come forward for the story? I'm going to grab a chair. All right. So the story is How the Grinch Stole Christmas. This is Ailish's story. How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Who, by Dr. Seuss. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. I see you. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be, perhaps, that his shoes were too tight. But I think the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. There is a question from the audience.
It's not a question,
It's an answer.
I know why he doesn't like Christmas. It's because his heart is like almost 3 sizes too small.
His heart was 3 sizes too small. That's a possibility.
Like this big.
Like the size of a walnut. Yeah, that's possible. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here. Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming. I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew. All the Who girls and boys, all the Who children would wake bright and early. They'd rush for their toys, and then, oh, the noise. Noise, noise, noise. That's the thing he hated. Noise, 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 noise. And then the Whos, young and old, would sit down to a feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, 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 feast. They would feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beast, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the Whos would start singing. They'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing, 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 sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how? There is another question from the audience.
A little back from what you just read. Not a page. It was constant ing.
It was, yep. Dr. Seuss was a poet. And then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do, the Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat, and he chuckled and clucked. What a great Grinchy trick. With this coat and this hat, I look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there were none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No. The Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max, then he took some red thread, and he tied a big horn to the top of his head. Then he loaded up some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, "Giddy up!" And the sleigh started down towards the homes where the Who's lay a snooze in their town. Yes.
Did you know there's something he's trying to trick them, and there's a really big way that he could stop Christmas. Take everything,
He could take everything. I wonder what his plan is.
and even the voices,
Even the voices.
and the bells.
Oh. Yes.
Is it okay if I spoil? No.
I think we're just going to tell the story and see how it goes.
Okay.
I don't know. I've never read this story before. It's a mystery to me. But it might be a new story to somebody in this room, so we'll just keep reading. All the windows were dark, quiet snow filled the air. All the Who's were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first little house on the square, "This is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once, for a moment or two, then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn and plums, and he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch, very nimbly, stuffed all the bags one by one up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out that icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took their last can of Who hash. That is a mystery. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up their tree. And the Grinch grabbed the tree, and he started to shove, when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast, and he saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou Who was not more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter, who'd got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, "Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?" But you know, that old Grinch was so smart and so slick, he thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. "Why, my sweet little tot," the fake Santa Claus lied, "there's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, and I'll bring it back here." And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head, and he got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to all the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. Yes?
On the one where he was taking all the stuff from the other houses, mountain is not it. It's mice.
That's true.
But she wrote that to rhyme.
That's true. Mouses fits the rhyme scheme. It was dawn, all the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a snooze when he packed up his sled. Packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrapping, the tags and the tinsel, the trimmings, the trappings. 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. Pooh-pooh to the who's, he was grinchiously humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then the who's down in Whoville will all cry, boo-hoo. That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear, and he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow.
It's singing.
But the sound wasn't sad.
It was singing.
Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without bags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then was the topic of a sermon a couple weeks ago. But in Whoville, they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast. And that is the end of our story.
Can I go again?
Why don't we let people that haven't opened presents open one?
Okay.
Would anybody like to come forward and open a present or have a present brought to them to open?
Oh, can I bring one?
Come on.
Yeah, if you could bring one right back there, that would be great.
Okay.
Let's actually do a gold one. Let's sing after that story.
No, that's not a good. Gold ones are singing.
Yep, let's do maybe this gold one right here. Yep.
Can I?
If you would please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing 231, Angels We Have Heard on High. offering. Offering, there we go.
Good morning. Each week we take up a collection to support the work of this church and our partners in the community. Today we're collecting funds for the church discretionary fund. In the past 12 months, members and friends have donated $5,600 to the discretionary fund, which is almost exactly what has been distributed to members and friends throughout the year. We have helped with utility bills, partial rental payments, motel rooms, gas, and grocery gift cards. We consider this an important part of our ministry to be able to help individuals in need in the community. Thank you for helping us to be able to say yes whenever we can. Will the ushers please come forward to gather gifts for the discretionary fund? And if you are online and you would like to use text giving, simply text UC Lincoln and the amount you wish to give to 73256. That's UC Lincoln to 73256.
All right.
While the offering is going forward, I'm going to ask one of the helpers to, I see you've got the gold ones, but we're going to deliver a red box to Joellen right over there. You can go together right over there. We have good helpers this morning.
You can go next. Okay. And I do my own. We use the same kind of lights at home. The kind of lights, not the exact color. We do use these colors. We use the exact same kind of lights. Literally just pop. Fake. I still think it's possible.
Chalice lighting, Madeline Lingle, The Risk of Birth.
All right, so we're going to light our chalice.
Hello again. This is The Risk of Birth by Madeline Lingle. This is no time for a child to be born, with the earth betrayed by war and hate, and a comet slashing the sky to warn that time runs out and the sun burns late. That was no time for a child to be born, in a land in the crushing grip of Rome. Honor and truth were trampled by scorn, yet here did the Savior make his home. When is the time for love to be born? The inn is full on the planet Earth, and by a comet the sky is torn, yet love still takes the risk of birth.
That sounded kind of like a taser,
Yeah,
but it's just a fire way.
it is. All right.
Electricity that goes through.
Could we deliver a gift back there?
Okay, you can do.
Well, let's be careful with that. Ailish, if you could deliver a gift back there. And let's actually just leave this alone for now.
Can I at least get a little close with my hand?
Ooh,
Not that single.
yeah, this is a little wobbly, so let's leave that.
I'll push this on.
That was loud for all that. Whoops.
You can do also this one. Yeah, and then this one. Am I doing this far off? Do I have to The golden ones are carols, right? Yeah. And I'm gonna do one. Lord, and you haven't done much, so you deserve to be first.
So if you've got the last three, why don't you come down here with them? There we go.
I'm okay.
All right.
My niece took me. My niece took me there.
This reading is from Matthew, sadly, not written by Doctor Who. Be a lot more interesting if it was. This is how the birth of Jesus Christ took place. When Mary, his mother, was engaged to Joseph, before they were married, she became pregnant by the Holy Spirit. Joseph, her husband, was a righteous man. Because he didn't want to humiliate her, he decided to call off their engagement quietly. As he was thinking about this, an angel from the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, "Joseph, son of David, don't be afraid to take Mary as your wife, because the child she carries was conceived by the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son, and you will call him Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins." Now all of this took place so that what the Lord had spoken through the prophet would be fulfilled. "Look, a virgin will become pregnant and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel." Emmanuel means God with us. When Joseph woke up, he did just as an angel from God commanded and took Mary as his wife. But he didn't have sexual relations with her until she gave birth to a son. Joseph called him Jesus. The coming of the Magi. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in the territory of Judea during the rule of King Herod, Magi came forward from the east to Jerusalem. They asked, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We've seen his star in the east and we've come to honor him." When King Herod heard this, he was troubled, and everyone in Jerusalem was troubled with him. He gathered all the chief priests and the legal experts and asked them where the Christ was to be born. They said, "In Bethlehem of Judea," for this is what the prophet wrote. "You, Bethlehem, land of Judah, by no means are you least among the rulers of Judah, because from you will come one who governs, who will shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the Magi and found out from them the time when the star had first appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search carefully for the child. When you found him, report to me so that I too may go and honor him." When they heard the king, they went. And look, the star they had seen in the east went ahead of them until it stood over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were filled with joy. They entered the house and saw the child with Mary, his mother. Falling to their knees, they honored him. Then they opened their treasure chests and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Because they were warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they went back to their own country by another route.
All right, there was a pre-delivered gift over there, so we'll do that one next. I'm glad we're not ending with that.
Do I need to be in the microphone? Okay. Yeah, there we go. I'm Peg Pelter, a member of the Board of Trustees, and I want to offer a special welcome to those who are visiting for the first time. The evening service tonight is at 5 p.m., and it will be our candlelight service. We will sing Silent Night and other Christmas carols. Please note that the church office will be closed this week, and then beginning January 1st, the office hours will change. The new hours are Tuesday through Thursday, 9 to 3, and Sunday, 9 to noon. We are glad you are here, and we hope that you have time with your family and friends this week. Merry Christmas.
All right, now let's sing. So who wants to open one of the carol? Let's do carol for carols. Ailish, over here, that way. Please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing Joy to the World. It is 245 in the Gray Hymnal. This one in particular is Wild in the Gray Hymnal. So I think we have one more red box. Where shall we deliver this one? There's two people here. Maybe they can open it together.
Some of these boxes may
Come from my house.
Spirit of life, eternal mystery, receive the meditations of our hearts this day. We come to this space with the challenges and sorrows of our lives ringing our thoughts. All that we have left undone, our relationships that may be fraught or frayed, the pressures of life, work, and home hunching our spirits and bringing us down. Beyond these walls, there is so much that is outside of our control. Let us leave it there for a moment. Beloved mystery, hold us close and whisper into our hearts that another world is possible. When life is difficult, the holidays can be extra difficult. I invite you to type into the chat or speak into this shared space your name or the name of another in sorrow or difficulty. Gladys. Laura Lee. Oralee. Tom. Chris. Children who consumed applesauce with lead in it. I'll add the family and friends of George Tuck. Those who are facing war overseas. Shink Baskard household who has the flu. The Deal family who lost their great-grandfather recently. Julie. From the chat, we have Laura. And also a friend whose husband, Logan, just passed. And concern for our daughter, Joanne, from Mary Summermeyer and Earl Kramer. Anne. Everyone who is lonely this holiday season. A family friend who just lost her son. Thank you. The holidays can also be a time of extra jubilance. I invite you to type into the chat or speak into this shared space your name or the name of another you wish us to remember and joy. Okay. Christmas is almost here. That is a joy. Christmas with family.
The Israeli peace organizations, particularly Jews for Peace and Not in Our Name.
The Israeli Peace Organization, particularly Jews for Peace and Not in Our Name. I'm really happy for Amber. Happy for Amber. I'm glad you're here. Yay! Lots of joy there. Primarily able to celebrate Christmas for the first time in years because of illness. And new love. My Texas family. In the chat, we have Richard, first cousin, just located on DNA testing after an adoption in 1951. That was Amy Miller. If you couldn't hear it, Amy, you got lots of wows from the audience on that one. We know, too, that there are some joys and sorrows that are yet unspoken, but still deeply felt. Let us hold these in our hearts and meditate in silence for a moment for all who are struggling. Thank you for your presence.
The last gift, appropriately, is a gift of song. Who wants to open this one? Closing carol is Go Tell It on the Mountain, which is number something in the gray hymnal. 239. Also, words up here which may or may not match the hymnal. right. That ends our service for the night. We're going to extinguish our chalice before it gets knocked over and burns the building down. If you are free tonight, we would love to see you at 5 o'clock for our candlelight service. It'll be a different service from this one, but it is beautiful every year. If you are not here with us tonight, have a wonderful, wonderful holiday, a joyous new year. I don't know what you're saying. Hi, Tice. Sure. Okay, we'll do this. So the question was why the story from Matthew as opposed to the King James Version that has poetry in it. So for anybody that wants to leave because you have somewhere to go at 11 o'clock, by all means do that. But we'll do a brief bit of biblical teaching right now. So there are 4 Gospels, 4 accounts of Jesus' life: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. 2 of those don't have the infancy narrative in it. Mark starts with Jesus as an adult. John starts, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. Luke has the story of the child in the manger, and Matthew has the story of the Magi. So the story that you think of when you think of the Christmas story is actually an amalgamation of 3 different stories. It starts with John, and in the beginning was the Word. Then it goes to Luke. Well, then it goes sort of to Matthew with Joseph and Mary and the virgin birth. Then it goes back to Luke for the manger. Then it goes back to Matthew for the Magi. And then it picks up with Mark during the life. So that's the reason. Usually we use Luke. The service today was about gifts, and the homily tonight is about gifts, so we're using Matthew this year. And the translation was the Common English Bible, which is a translation that tries to balance the poetry of the old language of the King James Bible with a more accurate rendering of the Greek. That's the long, involved answer to that question. Okay, well.
It's like hearing Hamlet turned into prose.
Well, I will happily recite the King James Version if you want to stick around for 10 minutes. But otherwise, we will extinguish this chalice, go in peace, have a wonderful holiday.